And at that point, I fell in love with the thought of becoming a pilot. So I ended up signing up for lessons. I did all the theory, did all the radio telephony, and I became a pilot. So yeah, I've got a license for a Warrior PA-28.
Yeah, how big's that thing then? Right, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the podcast Chatzzz. And we have a very, very special guest today. Gary, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Adam. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, we met yesterday.
One day ago.
Yeah, one day ago. And I've already bribed him, blackmailed him, and all the above to get you on the podcast. So thank you very much for coming on.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and in the car on the way there, I prepped him about the 3 facts about himself. So yeah, you prepared that. But the one thing I haven't actually got you to prepare, which to be fair, I do everybody. If you're introducing yourself for the first time,
yes,
to like a taxi driver or to a random stranger at like some meeting or something, what would you say? How would you introduce yourself?
I think just keeping it simple. My name is Gary.
That's nice. That's nice. Because that's the thing. That's what you would say, isn't it? But like, some people are like, "Oh yeah, I'm Gary, and I do this and this and this." But if you mean something, it's like, "Hi, I'm Gary. Nice to meet you," isn't it?
Yeah.
So you keep it simple.
Keep it simple. That's it. Yeah.
And I have to say, this has got to be one of the best backdrops we've had on the podcast, isn't it?
It's special.
It's pretty cool.
Special. Very beautiful.
I don't know if people will be able to hear, but there's a party going on, isn't there? In the golf club?
Yeah. I'm just tuning in, see if I win a prize.
Like Swedish House Mafia, like a raffle going on or something like that.
It's pretty. Welcome to Marbella.
Pretty lively. So let's go into the 3 facts then. So you had 2 minutes to prepare on the way here. What are the 3 facts? Would you say?
I suppose fact number 1. I actually play piano.
Okay.
Yes. So I got to, when I was younger, I was forced into playing piano. I think I started when I was maybe 4 years old, and I actually sat exams. So I'm up to grade 6 out of 8.
That's pretty impressive.
Which is, yes, I've not played for years, but I do still, especially during the pandemic, when everything was locked down, I got my piano out, stole it from my mum, and ended up just playing some stuff again. It was good.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So I played the keyboard when I was at school,
yes,
but never the actual piano. I don't think I did any grades and that kind of thing. I can still actually do much of the day.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's like to
this day, still do it.
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah. Maybe like the first section of it, but nothing too crazy.
Good skills, man. Yeah.
What would you play if there was a piano here? What would be your go-to?
Oh, that's a good question.
Michael Jackson in the background now. If you can hear it, it's fucking it's going off.
I don't know, a mix of things. I go from Elton John to Bohemian Rhapsody is my latest one. That was an interesting one to learn. Anything. I listen to a piece and I can tune in and just play.
Oh, nice, yeah.
You know, I had to always learn how to read music, but I could never read music. I always just listened to how it sounded, then played it. So even when I went into exams, it was I had the music in front of me, but I never ever read the music. I always just remembered how to play it through the sound of what it was, and then I'd always pass my exams with that. Terrifying experience.
That's interesting. Yeah. Surely that's not very common, is it?
I don't know. I think people play by ear. Some people they read the music. My auntie, she would read the music as part of her homework on the bus going from college back home. Me, not a chance. Didn't know how to read. It took me ages to read, and then I just listened to the sound and then played it.
Ah, that's crazy. That is cool. Good party trick to have as well.
It is a good party trick, yes.
Yeah. And then what would be your second fact?
Second fact, I suppose despite travelling so much recently in the past few years, I never actually got my passport until I was 18 years old. Oh. So my first trip abroad was France when I was 18. And that was down to my auntie's house in the Perpignan, in Saint Cyprien. Yes.
That is quite late, isn't it?
Yeah, very late. Yes. Yeah.
That's crazy. I
popped my travel cherry when I was 18 years old.
That's mental. So would you just do holidays around the UK then?
Yeah. Up north. So when we were younger, like family holidays were always up Fort William, Fort Augustus, Oban, across Isle of Skye, all the northwest. And they were awesome, like some incredible memories of being up the north of Scotland. That will always be, really special. But when I was 18, I went down to the south of France. That kind of gave me the opportunity to expand and go from there, What
was that first trip like then? Can you remember it?
Yeah. I remember getting the passport, and I had like 2 or 3 days before I had to either cancel the trip or I was going to make it, because the passport I had to pay for expedited service. So I'd get the passport in time for actually taking off. So everything was very, very last minute. My cousin let me know maybe couple of weeks before we were set to go. So I paid for the extra service for the passport to come quicker, and it came, which was great. So it was very last minute, very rushed. First time on a plane. Yeah, it was an awesome time away. I'll always remember it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Well, I was born in Boston, in Massachusetts, in America.
Awesome.
So
that's a cool city.
Yeah. So like first time I'd been on a plane, probably lesson 1 when we moved to Paris and then moved back and that kind of thing. And then we did lots of family holidays when we were younger. But yeah, I couldn't imagine 18. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But then made up for lost time, definitely.
100%. Yes. Times have changed over the last decade. That's for sure.
Yeah. And what would be the third one?
Third fact, I'm a pilot.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That is very interesting. Yeah. How did that come about?
I suppose we've got a small airport in my city. Dundee's got a very small airport. And every time I drove past it, I always thought, what would it be like to fly a plane? So I think it was on one of my vacations in between contracts. I went and I inquired about a lesson, and the guy, my instructor, who turned out to be my full-time instructor when I signed up, he took me up and he threw the plane in the sky, all different directions. And at that point, I fell in love with the thought of becoming a pilot. So I ended up signing up for lessons. I did all the theory, did all the radio telephony, and I became a pilot. So yeah, I've got a license for a Warrior PA-28.
Yeah, how big's that plane then?
Huh?
How big's that plane?
4-seater.
But yeah, that's so cool though, isn't it?
Yeah. It's all fixed wing, so I can take off. I can fly from here to, well, not here. Marbella is slightly different, right? But in Scotland, I can take off from an airport and go to across the country and go to the northwest of Scotland, whatever. Go for a bite to eat for lunch in Kirkwall and then come back down.
Hey, that's so cool, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Better than having a car.
100%.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, no traffic jams in the sky.
No, definitely not. Because I think when I was maybe 16, my mum and dad got me like a fly lesson.
Yes.
I never did it because I don't know, I didn't want to do it.
Is it still valid?
I don't know.
You need to check. You need to do it.
Because there's an airport in Carlisle.
Yes.
So I think it was like there or something. But yeah, I just could never.
It's one thing when you drive a car, everything's flat on the ground. In the air, you've got to compensate for everything. So it tests your cognitive skills and abilities to be able to coordinate, And yeah, the test was intense. That was the last 3 flights. You had to do a cross-country, 150 nautical miles. So I had to land in 2 different airports, get the book signed, fly back to the home city, and then the mock test, 2.5 hours in the sky. And you had to take out your map, and you had to do plugs, and you had to do, you tune your radio into 2 different frequencies across the country so you can get a cross-reference to know exactly where you are in case all of your instruments went down. It was pretty intense. And then taking that into the exam as well, you're scrutinized from the second that you take off, doing all your checks, taking off, doing the flight around, changing from one air traffic system to another, flying across Edinburgh, the bridges. It was very cool. Really interesting experience.
How long did that take you to qualify then?
I think in total, it took about a year to get my full license. The theory exams were the most stressful, trying to understand the principles of flight. Pretty much air law it's very detailed and intricate, so that was the biggest part of things. The theory, flying the plane, is very easy. They teach you safety, so safety is always paramount in aviation, right? I mean, you got to know if something fails. You go down. My biggest mess up was I took off and we were doing practice for maydays. And you're not supposed to obviously press the button because then you're telling air traffic control that there's a mayday. And I pressed the button and said mayday, 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 and the shit went down. Like everyone went mental on it was pretty intense. And then my
never do that again.
Never again. So at least I know what to do in a real life situation, right? So it was pretty cool. Like,
that's funny.
Yeah. So
because I know one of my friends, clients, whatever you want to call it, his son, he's done flight school.
Yes.
It took him like 2.5 years, something crazy.
Once you go to commercial, it's different. You've got to do your whole 80 APLs, I think they are, and it's like you've got to go through a database of 14,000 questions based on everything to do with flying, and that's really intense. And then your commercial license, you need 200 hours before you then become qualified to become a commercial pilot, but then you've got to clock up, I think, 1,500 hours of flying. That's why a lot of people that want to go in commercial flying become an air instructor, so that they know then they can teach while they rack up their hours, so that it's like a win-win,
Okay.
So they get paid for teaching people, but they also accumulate their flight hours, which will contribute towards their first in command or their co-pilot status, So
yeah, it's interesting how it all works, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not a cheap hobby or job to have to train. No.
I mean, back then, I did this back in 2017, I think it was. man, it was £170 an hour, £180 an hour for, you know, you've got to then do a minimum of 45 hours. I think I did 55. So it racks up. Like it's a big expense, you know?
Yeah. Do you reckon you'd ever go into that in the future? No?
I think now that it'd be an awesome career, but then it just means going from one place to the other more frequently. Yeah. And I think it would be difficult to get a life balance.
Definitely.
With, you know, if I went into commercial international, it'd be very difficult to get a balance. I know other people that are related to pilots, they'll do one flight a week, but they'll do a week going from Edinburgh to Dubai, stay there for a week and then come back again and vice versa. Yeah. So you're never properly settled where you are. And I think that would be, it's a lifestyle not for everyone, you know?
No, and I think that's just the thing, isn't it? Is a lifestyle, and being able to, well, from the outside looking in, it looks like a sexy job, isn't it? Sexy career. Yeah, I think when you're actually doing it, it'd be very, very different. Yes. I imagine it's quite taxing on you personally, and also on relationships or families and that kind of thing. But it seems to pay well anyway. So give and take, is there?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. You got enough money to look after whatever you want to look after, right?
Yeah.
And if you've got somebody that understands that lifestyle, then it's great. You know? So it's. I think that now that I've got the license, it's nice to say that I've got the license.
Tick box done. Yeah.
It was more of an experience. And it looks good on the CV, I think, as well. You know, if I'm applying for a job or they say, what skills have you put yourself through out with your professional career? Then it's nice to say that I've done piloting as a hobby, just to get some life experience on it. You know, so
yeah, it's impressive. Yeah, I don't think many people would have done that.
Well, maybe not. I don't think so. No, you know, it's not something that you just randomly decide. You know, I'm gonna do. Yeah, I think it's just been in my blood since I was a kid going past the airport. So as I'm glad I've done it. But I don't think I would pursue it as a career.
You said driving past as a kid. What interested you as a kid growing up? What did you enjoy doing? Or
that's a good question. I suppose childhood memories. You know, you always went to school. You came back from school. You did your homework. You did. You know, I had to my mum was strict with the piano lessons, and I had that to do. And then, you know, weekends as I grow up, I suppose socializing was a big thing. Being from Britain, you know what it's like. You don't just go out to have a glass of wine with a meal. You go out and get absolutely hammered, and then you're recovering for days at a time. And I think that it was just more of a social aspect when I was younger. I didn't really have any true hobbies apart from, I loved badminton. I played a lot of badminton in high school. I was very good at badminton. I love playing badminton. Piano, so you know, things that were testing the coordination. You know, it was a lot of fun. Football, I like football. I play football now and again, but it wasn't like my primary
passion.
No. And back then as a kid, you were always looking up to footballers. You're always looking up to that as a career or whatever, you know.
Well, that's what I wanted to do, so definitely. Yeah.
So I think it's a young boy's dream, right? But life just didn't happen that way.
No.
It was very different.
Yeah. Did you enjoy like the academic side or like the extracurricular, or what kind of like interested you when you were going?
Academic, I was always a nuisance at school.
Yeah.
Too much energy. It's just too much energy. And I think that the teachers, I don't know, you look at it back now because you can rationalise now that you're older, you can reflect on a lot of things, but I don't think the teachers focus enough on the energy aspect of the pupils in the class and tailored what was right to cultivate that energy. It was always following maths, physics, English and all these subjects, and I didn't have a real interest in any of them. Music was always my top subject. I failed my prelim exam, then I passed my higher with an A. I think I got the top mark for music. So music for me was it was much more practical. It was much more practical. When it came to maths, I have a good understanding of maths, but when you're taught the way that they want you to learn in school, it just didn't coincide. So I was always a little bit, if I didn't understand something, my mind would just go left and I would just go haywire, you know. And I apologise in advance to my teachers because I think that I gave them their money's worth, that's for sure. It was, and then high school was exactly the same. I was a problem, actually. I don't know if I want to be admitting this, but I was actually thrown out of school.
No.
Yes. Yeah. So, you know, you'll know, being from Britain, we had a ceilidh for a school dance, and me and my friends went and had a couple of beverages, and it didn't go down so well. So that was my last day at school.
Oh, the last day.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So academically, it wasn't my strong point as a child. during the pandemic, however, I turned that around. It's funny how double my life later I managed to redeem what I think myself. And I did my MBA through Manchester, and I got my degree, my master's in business. So
cool.
I hope that I've made up for
in later life.
Yes, yeah.
But I think it's interesting because when I was going through school, I thought like the GCSEs and the A-levels were like the end of the world, weren't they? If you didn't get that, because that's the way they were made out. And like you were saying, it's like a one-size-fits-all, the academic system, isn't it? And if you don't have an interest or excel in any certain aspects of the curriculum, then you're classed as like a failure or like a problem.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's similarities with me because I was easily distracted because I wasn't really interested. And then, like you say, when you leave school and you find something you're interested in, you'll excel in it, won't you?
Yes.
So it's like, but I suppose teachers are probably overstaffed or overpopulated with students, so they don't have enough time to probably spend with individual kids and stuff.
Exactly that. Yeah, I think it's
to understand them.
Even if they wanted to, they don't have the ability or capacity to do so, because I don't know, for the size of your class, but if I remember, I think between 25 and 30 pupils, and they've got to stick to the routine of what it is. Otherwise, they lose the curriculum. And if they lose the curriculum, especially for people that do enjoy it and do thrive in that environment, then it's impeding their whole growth and understanding of what they want to do when they move forward as well. So, it is, looking back, it's a tough job for a teacher.
100%. I wouldn't want to do it.
No,
I couldn't do it. I don't think.
It's a very admirable position, and you're out there for the best intention. But when you've got a little prick like me that comes in and just steals things left and right, then it's I apologize in advance for
that's funny
to the teachers. It was a very interesting childhood, that's for sure.
Did you have any like aspirations or dreams or any jobs that you wanted to do when you were going through school or when you were leaving? Was there anything in particular that you had fixated on?
I don't think so. I always remember one of my friends at school saying that he wanted to travel the world as a financial advisor, and I wonder if that struck a part in me, to have something that I love, as well as I can travel the world and see different places with as well. And they always say, if you travel the world, you can't make money. That was the kind of paradigm, the hardwiring when I was a child, at least. So there was always that, should I go for it? Should I not go for it? And the financial advisor part of it was not something that would ever interest me. But what happens if I got something that was able to go and just venture and see how big and bold and beautiful this world is? And I think that, once that seed was planted, it's always been part of, the bigger picture of how life will expand. And I suppose that's maybe why I am where I am right now and doing what I do, which I'm grateful for, So subconscious is an incredible thing, you think that you overlook something or you disregard something, but it's amazing how much it actually plays a part in your life growing up to then come to fruition and give you everything that you're currently got here. Look at where we are right now. Look at the back. We're in Marbella sitting Saturday night having
chat with the boys.
A great chat. Yes, it's great. Like this is what life's all about, right?
100%.
And I think that breaking away from the subjective norm or the kind of day-to-day routine of what it should have been, what I was grown up as, like a 9-to-5 job, and it just didn't fit in my psyche. It didn't fit into the life that I wanted to live, and I think it takes a lot of courage to break away from that cycle, and it's definitely an interesting life, that's for sure.
Because you are conditioned at school to go into that, right? You get your qualifications and you go to uni or you get a job, and that's just the way it is.
Yes.
And then to do something that's maybe not culturally or socially accepted like that, it is a bit like, why are they doing that? Or how are they doing that?
Yes.
You shouldn't be doing that. But you can do it. You just need to put in some hard work. Then
yeah. Well, I think that's it. I mean, you go through school. The story that I think that's taught, at least, is you meet somebody. Well, you study, you meet somebody, you then get to know each other, you then get married, you settle down, you have kids, you get a mortgage, you have a car, and then you get to live and experience life at an age where you really want to be 18, 19 to 25 to be able to do. So you've got the energy and the get-go to get out there. And I think that it is going against that the grain of how we are raised and how we're brought up, that it doesn't always sit so easy with explaining to people what you do for, you know, a living, or so how do you do that? How's that possible?
How do you make money?
How do you make money? Yeah, you know, my mum thought I dealt drugs because I was able to jump on a plane and go wherever I wanted to go at any point in time. She's like, "Are you doing anything that should be?" No, everything is good, right? So it is. I suppose that there's the question that a lot of people ask to say, you know, how, but it's good fun.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So when you were leaving school, then what was kind of like, what were you thinking? What was next for you?
I went to college and I failed miserably at college as well. Yeah. Me and my friend, we did mechatronics. And even to this day, I don't even know what mechatronics is. It was one of these subjects that you just ticked the box and said, you know what, I'm just going to go for this. Yeah. And I don't think if my mum is going to listen to this, she's not going to be particularly happy. But I don't think we went to 50% of the class. We always just went for our driving because my friend passed his driving test. So we went on a drive and... you know, we went and got some bag of cookies from the local Tesco. It was great, you know. So times were very interesting then, you know. And then I dropped out of college, and then I ended up going into Tesco, working in Tesco full time.
Yeah, you were telling me earlier about that actually. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And you know, I think I saw at that age, I was like, oh, I can get a full time job. Or I think it was a part time job going into a full time job. A team leader position came up, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to go for that. And I ended up getting it, and it felt really fulfilling to know that I had full-time employment where I was actually getting paid, and regardless of the amount of money that I was making, it was still an income for what I was doing. I was given my efforts, and I was rewarded by getting a check at the end of the month, and it felt great at that time. And I ended up doing Tesco for probably, I think, 8 years.
Long time.
Yes. So, and great memories. Like, it was, made some really, really good friends back in Tesco. It was just a great gig for that time of my life, you know. So yeah, it was
good social, I imagine. Because when I was growing up at uni, I worked at a hotel, and that was like similar age people, and like, yeah, obviously not the most sociable hours, but you're working with people that you get on with, you're going out after your shifts, and it's good like banter, and like say you get paid for it, and it's what it is, isn't it? But it's not forever, I don't think.
No, not for me at least, you know. Yeah. And it was every Saturday, you know, my friends would all be working on the Saturday, and at lunchtime we say, you fancy a few drinks? They're like, no, absolutely not. It's going to be a quiet one. And then at 5 o'clock towards the end of the shift, it's like, what's the thoughts? And they're like, let's get on it. You know, and it was just the messiest of nights. It was great. You know, many of a hangover on a Sunday, that's for sure, you know.
Definitely. Yeah. And then how did you decide, or how did you come to the decision to leave or progress or move on to the next
I suppose, step? Yeah, I mean, my brother actually, I ended up, because I was overweight when I was a kid, and my brother inspired me to start going to the gym, and I started going to the gym from when I was maybe 18 years old, and I got fitter, stronger, and I actually really thrived in the gym. It was great. It was an awesome way for me to expel the energy that I'd had pent up, because obviously coming from school, you know, things didn't go the way they went because of the level of energy that I had. So I ended up taking everything out in the gym, which was great. And my brother said to me, why don't you do something with personal training? So I'm like, right, okay, so let's look into personal training courses. I ended up doing I think it was the reps level 3 or whatever it was, the qualification. And I ended up getting a personal training qualification. And then back to the story of traveling and doing something that I love, I put two and two together. I say, well, how can I travel and do personal training at the same time? So I Google, I say, you know, personal training traveler. And the first company that came up was the company I just left a few years ago from cruise ships. So that was Steiner, and I ended up applying. And that was the end of my Tesco days. I handed in my notice and I went down to London and started my training in Watford. I think I was there for 4 weeks. And then I was shipped off to my first ship. Didn't know what was going on in life. Like, I was put on a flight. My first appointment was in New York. So I landed in New York. I had to do a week of maritime training to get me up to speed with health and safety and all this kind of stuff for the ship. Pier 8 to 8, I'll never forget it, straight down from Times Square. That was my first time I joined. That was 2012. And that was the Disney Magic that I joined.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Yeah.
So what was the feeling like things? It sounds like it just happened so quickly that you just got the personal training qualification, then you applied, and then you just shipped off. Was it literally like that? Or did you think about what was...
Didn't think at all. I didn't think at all. This was, I mean, my father had passed just about 5 or 6 months before I left to go on the ship. Maybe it was only just a couple of months actually. So I think that once that happened, there was nothing for me to really lose, but everything to gain at this point in my life. So that's why I just took off, and I thought, I'm just going to go with whatever is going to happen. Whatever is meant for me won't pass me by. So I end up doing my first contract of 8 months on the ship, and I just went full guns blazing with it. You know,
That's
didn't
cool.
ever look back, and it's turned out to be pretty good.
Yeah.
So
What was that first contract like then?
tough.
What you expected?
You know what? Towards the end of my first contract, I said, I'm never doing this again. Like it was so many emotions. The first couple of months are awesome. You're on a high. You meet new people from all around the world. And bear in mind, my first time that I travelled before this was I did France and I did Turkey. I did a couple of lads' holidays in Turkey. And you meet people from all over the world, Africa, Philippines, Indonesia, and then all of Europe, America, South America, and it's overwhelming. And you get connected with so many people from around the world, and it's phenomenal. But then after the first couple of months, things start to settle down and you've got a job to do. And then once that happens, it's literal waves of emotion. So you're on a high, then it goes to the almighty low, and then you start to it's like equilibrium, it starts to balancing out. But then towards the end of the contract, I would say maybe 6 to 8 weeks before the contract finishes, your head is just all it can see and taste and feel is home. You know, Chinese from the local Chinese shop and beans on toast and, you know, like just basic
home
things,
comforts, yeah.
home comforts. And it's like, it's amplified. Everything is amplified. So towards the end of my first contract, I thought this was a great experience. Don't know what's next, but I'm just gonna take it as it comes. And I didn't really plan on going back for a second contract, but then I ended up going back for a second, then third, then fourth, fifth, sixth. You know, it's just the way it goes, right?
What made you go back for the second then? Because obviously coming off the first contract, like you say, you're a bit unsure, and by the sounds of it, pretty confident you weren't going to go back.
Yeah.
Then what changed your mind?
I don't know. I mean, I met my ex-girlfriend on the first contract, and we just decided together, let's go back on and do another contract and see what it takes us. Because once I got to understand what the cruise ship was all about and how I can capitalize, make money, it made sense to then take all those skills back into a second contract just to make sure that I'm not making a bad choice by not going back. Because the emotions are so high after the first contract of good, bad, ugly. Once you step off that ship on the first contract, you forget all the bad times and you remember all of the great moments.
Yeah.
You know, going to the crew bar, getting off in the port, staying out late, you know, getting hammered where you can't see the light of day. You know, all of these events, you know, it was, you start laughing and smiling, think, you know what, I'm going to give it one more go. Yeah. So then we decided to go back on our second contract, and it was very good. You know, we did very, very well, you know, and it was well worth it. It was a good gig.
Where was the second one then?
The Fantasy. So that was a 7-day cruising. We did East and West Caribbean, going into Mexico, Grand Cayman, Jamaica, and then St. Martin, St. Thomas, San Juan. So like getting off in the old San Juan, going to the fort, and it's just very cool.
Yeah.
You know? You get to see some beautiful places.
I can imagine, yeah. If someone's listening to this and they're thinking, oh, what is a ship contract like, or what is a cruise contract like? What actually is it like then? If somebody's thinking about it or debating it, would you like recommend it, or how would you kind of, I don't know, point people in the right direction, give people advice? What type of thing?
I think just zero expectations. I think everybody lives ship life differently, and I think that you sculpt yourself. I feel like I joined as an ice cube and I sculpted myself throughout the years.
Yeah, it's chipped away.
Exactly, and I think that's all you can do is you make the most out of whatever it is. If you go on for a few weeks and you decide it's not for you, ride it out and just enjoy it for what it is. And then when you come off, you will then be able to get a better gauge and understanding. I think the biggest mistake people make is by going on board, a couple of months, they throw the towel in, they go back home and think, shit, should have stayed for a few more months, or at least fulfilled the first contract to say that I've done it. And I think that could be a bit of a regret for people. So I would always say ride it out, just enjoy it for what it is. If it's not something that you want to do for the rest of your life, 4 months to 8 months of your life is not going to kill you. Just get it done and then put it behind you, or look at the new opportunities on the ship. And here's the thing, there's so many different companies out there you can go to try a different ship. You can go on expeditions, you can go back for money, you can go back different positions, you could do whatever you want to do. So I think you just have zero expectations and just go on and just make the most of what it is, you know. There's always somebody in your similar situation on board that you can resonate with. And the beautiful thing about ships is that you know exactly who you'll get on with in life and who you will not get on with in life, because you're in such close proximity.
Yeah.
You know, it's a big metal tin in the middle of the ocean, so there's not much you can do other than just try your best to get on with people.
Yeah.
You know?
So then what kind of roles and positions have you had over the years? Which ones have you enjoyed the most and which ones have you maybe not enjoyed so much?
I think so. Personal trainer was great.
That was the first one when you went on.
That was my
just personal trainer.
Yeah. So the first position, personal trainer, I did that for 2 contracts, and then after that, I moved up to assistant manager of the spa operations, and then I became a spa manager, and I did that for maybe 5 years in total. So not a bad progression. And then after that, I became a corporate supervisor. So I was working out of Miami and going and visiting different brands. So my brands that I'd look after would be Disney, Crystal, Silversea, Windstar, Princess, and I'd go on board to make sure everything was in place and make sure they're selling what they need to sell so that we satisfy the company objectives, right? That position there, I would say, was probably the most challenging for me. I think the biggest challenge of it is that there wasn't an ability to connect with people the way that I'd like to connect with people. I love working with people and building those relationships up. But the issue is that when you're on a ship for 5 days, 7 days at a time, you don't get that ability to connect with people that you want the way you want to. So going from, I could literally be, I remember one of my assignments I was on in Barcelona, and my VP had messaged me saying, I need you to get across to, I think it was the Star Princess. And I look on cruise map, and I'm like, where is the ship? And it's in Seattle. And I had to get off on the Saturday morning, early debark. 7 o'clock in the morning, I got off. I got a flight and across to Seattle, I think I landed at 2 o'clock the next morning to then join the ship for that day and sail up in Alaska. So that was one part of my career with the company that I really struggled with, and I always have big aspirations to grow and keep pushing myself. And I really wanted to get into the office in Miami as a manager of operations or director of operations. But of course, you've got to do your experience and your tenure through that position before you're recognized to go forward. So I just didn't know how much longer I could have done that position for. And that's when I actually resigned from that job in the company at that point. That was just before the pandemic. That was probably 2019, August, September time, 2019. And I thought, I'm going to go home. I'm going to settle down. I'm going to meet somebody. We're going to have a dog. We're going to maybe have a kid, whatever. Yeah. And then I lasted 3 weeks and I was off traveling again. So it just didn't work out the way that I thought it was going to work out.
You see a mini holiday at home, and then you're back up.
Just back out. So that was probably the most challenging part. But then other opportunities, I ended up going back to the company for a couple of contracts after the pandemic when the ships were all up and running. And then I left again and had 1 year out exact from I think it was the 3rd of February until the 3rd of February 23 into 24. I was unemployed for a year. So that was very interesting. I went traveling. I did so many self-reflecting trips, which was
a lot of time to reflect on them.
Yes, and I did a lot of trying to understand myself a little bit better, because that was a year where I had time to slow down a little bit, and it was challenging because my life has gone from, it's just been non-stop for the past decade, so to have 1 year where I take a step back and just breathe, it was a challenge to do that, but it was necessary to.
Powerful thing to do, definitely.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Where did you go and what did you do in that year?
I ended up, so from February I went home. I went to Mexico for a couple of weeks.
You're saying to me you love Mexico. That's probably your favourite place.
Mexico's amazing. Yeah, I feel at home in Mexico. I've travelled to so many different countries around the world, and Mexico's one place where I land, my eyes just light up green, like my soul is on fire, and I feel so at peace in Mexico. I don't know what it is, but I'll embrace it for now. It's great. So I did a couple of weeks in Mexico, and then I went to Peru. I went to Peru it was initially supposed to be 1 week, but the whole purpose of me going to Peru was to do ayahuasca.
Oh, have you done it? Have you?
I did ayahuasca.
Oh, really?
Yes.
What was that like?
That was fucked up. That's
when you truly find out who you are, isn't it?
Yes, it really is. Yeah. So that was
a good or bad experience. A bit both.
It was an incredible experience, really incredible. Yeah, it opens you up in ways like people say go in with zero expectation, and you see videos of people doing it saying it's they have a set kind of parameter, I suppose, of what you're to experience. You'll see snakes, you'll see geometric shapes coming at you, you'll see everything moving and you'll be connected. It was the complete opposite to that. Whatever I thought it was going to be was nothing like what it was going to be. And the feeling was the most intense rather than the visuals that I got. And the purging was just insane. Like I was tripping for 6 hours. It was a long time. Yeah. And just purging one after the other. But the funny thing is everything happens at the right time in life, I believe. You know, everything comes at the time it's supposed to come. And it was actually my friend who is from Peru, but she was a doctor on the ship, and I kept in touch with her. And I knew that she was from Peru, but she was studying in Barcelona to do her master's for her qualifications for back home. And I got in touch with her and I said, look, I'm going to Peru. Have you got any insight to do Machu Picchu, Rainbow Mountain, all these different places? I says, but the other reason I want to go is because I want to do ayahuasca. And she says that her sister is best friends. There's a Netflix documentary called The Last Shaman. And the shaman on that, her sister is like, she does the ceremonies with him in Peru. So I ended up getting a 3-day private session with Pepe Francini, who was the last shaman. And it was just incredible. Really incredible, very blessed and humbled to have had the experience with him. You know, I did it back to back 3 days in a row. I thought the first day is going to be just a little introduction, you know, here's your introductory offer.
Warm you up.
No, you went straight in, balls deep. It was like intense. Yes.
Yeah, everyone just has different experiences of it, don't they? Yeah.
I can talk about ayahuasca for hours, you know. It was really, I don't ever regret that. For sure. You know, I think the biggest lesson that I took from that is that I never had a fear of dying, but now I have more of a fear of not living versus dying, which is giving me the ability to just go for it in life. You know, I think that there's always that little voice in the back of your head thinking, maybe you shouldn't do that now, maybe you should wait, maybe you should just hold off, what about this, what about that? And it starts to the narrative starts to speak a little bit louder. I think that you just need to silence that and just do whatever you want to do, you know, and just go for it. And I think that was one of the biggest learnings and lessons that the ayahuasca taught me and showed me, you know.
Not listen to that little voice.
Correct, just silence the narrative,
Because is that, well, I get the voice. I think everyone does, don't they? Yeah.
Everyone does. And I think it stems from primal instinct of just protecting it's the ego. It's protecting from hurt, from vulnerability, from fear, from rejection, from all of these things that we construct in our mind. It's like, you know, what happens if I do this and I fail? You know, what happens if I ask this girl out and she says no? What happens if I try this experience and it goes sideways? And I think that a lot of people have got the fear, and that's the ego, because, you know, what happens if you do try something and it fails?
Yeah, what happens if you try and it works?
Correct, you know, and I think that that's where a lot of times we get stuck on the people may classify as negative, but unless you try it, you never know what is going to come. It's not a negative experience, it's just not the experience you're to have at that particular moment in your life. So I think that once you overcome that, then it's another opportunity that comes next. So that's the biggest thing I think I took from it, you know.
I think I'll say, so you said about asking the girl out. If you say fancy a girl, you ask a girl out and she says no, you're still in the same position you were initially, isn't it? Like nothing's changed. No. Like they've just said no. Or if you wanted to start your own business and you try it, it doesn't work out, you're still in the same position. But what if you do ask the girl out and she says yes? What if you do start the business and it goes well? What if you do go on your contract and it works out well and you go on whatever? It's just like, you've just got to take the opportunities, haven't you? I
think so.
You just got to go for it. Especially, like you say, the primal instinct. If you want a normal life, just do normal things. If you want not a normal life, you have to do not normal things. You have to be comfortable being uncomfortable, because that's the main thing. Like I was going on the run today. It was fucking hot, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was not ideal.
It wasn't ideal.
But you just fucking do it and you get it done, don't you? And you feel better for it after. I feel a bit tired now.
But my body was in bits after I run today.
But we got run at the worst time, though, didn't we? Because it was fucking ridiculously hot.
Midday when the sun is. I mean, there's definitely better times that we could have been out there.
But that's interesting. I don't think I've ever spoke to someone who's done ayahuasca before, you know.
We need to do another podcast just on ayahuasca.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it would be for hours.
Yes.
But what's in the pipeline for you at the moment then? What's the plans? Because I know you've been travelling. You got in here in Marbella. You've got a wedding coming up as well.
Yes.
What's on your mind? What's next for you? Would you say?
It's a good question. You know, I started my new career about a year ago, and I actually work on board as an operations manager for the cruise line now, which is a phenomenal career. And then, you know, as I get older, I realise the importance of, you know, planting roots. And I think that now I'm starting to open up more to the thought of actually creating stability in my life, of still having the opportunity to travel, but at the same time knowing where I belong. I think that, you know, over the last year or couple of years, I stopped renting my apartment out in the UK, and I actually started living in it and renovating it and getting it up to where I want, and I absolutely love it, you know.
Yeah, house proud.
House proud, you know. I'm in Marbella, is one of the most beautiful places in Europe. And, you know, I'm actually looking forward to getting back home and just sitting on the sofa, making my own coffee and just being still, you know. I think home is truly where the heart is. Will I ever settle down in the UK? I don't think so. I don't know.
A base there, maybe.
But a base, for sure, yes. So I think that now, as I grow older, I think that creating more stability is paramount. You know, that's the priority now. I love my job. My rotation of the contracts I've got now is much better than it was before. Before I was working 8 months at a time. Now maximum I'll work 4 months at a time, and I'll have 2 months off. You know, this time I've got 10 weeks off. So to be able to jump on a plane, I did France for a couple of days. Now I do Spain for a couple of days, go back home, got a wedding next weekend in Ireland. Can't wait to see my friend getting married. And then after that, I don't have any plans as such. You know, Mexico for sure. I need to go out to Mexico. But apart from that, it's life's free until the end of May, which is awesome, you know?
I suppose like work-life balance is important, isn't it, as well?
It is, yes.
Like, yeah, that's one thing that I've tried to prioritize this year. Is like, before I would probably prioritize work more than my personal life, whereas now it's like finding that balance of, when I'm working, I'll work hard and try and do it in like a specific time frame, and then have a time frame where I can enjoy it. It's obviously still work because I can work on my laptop, but then have a time frame of I can enjoy myself and say, come to Marbella and Ibiza for a month, and then go back, because I need to have a base in the UK at the moment because it's my job and I need to. But
and the UK is great. I think that you know, sometimes the law of familiarity, we always think, oh, home is boring, there's nothing happening. Carlisle, I'm not too sure how many people live in Carlisle.
Not many, 100,000 maybe.
100,000. So my home city is like 150,000, right?
Yeah.
So we live in small towns in comparison to the bigger picture, but home will always be home, and it's okay for that to be. And I think that once we, you know, yourself as well, you go out and you expand, and you see different places and you think, I can see myself here. And then you go back home and you can recalibrate, you can start to figure things out, and before you know it, you'll be down here, which is awesome.
Oh, definitely.
And I think that's the beautiful part of it, you know. We're never ever going to be 9 to 5 people, which is
lucky.
lucky. Yes. It's yeah.
Do you know, I've only ever had a job for 3 months.
Is it?
Yeah. We worked for an events company for a few months after finished uni, and then quit, and then just gone from there. Because it's interesting, because a lot of my friends now have seen me like progress from uni, going out all the time, to like now. Because all it is a bit of sacrifice, same view, sacrifice, a bit of hard work, and you can reap the rewards, can't you? But a lot of people aren't willing to maybe let something give or sacrifice something to reap the rewards long term, because I feel like a lot of people want that short term gratification or that little dopamine short term, whereas like, if you want to, I don't know, improve your life, have a great life, you maybe need to let something go to then in the future have a better life. So but it's what makes you happy, isn't it, really? As long as you're happy, that's the main thing, and just got to keep on going, because life doesn't stop for anyone.
It doesn't. And I think, to your point, I think that the generation that we are seeing now are very much in that way. If they got stuck into the nitty-gritty aspect of what is required to get, you know, there's a lot of entitlement, there's a lot of, you know, why is this not served on my plate here and now? And there's so much potential with the generation that there is now, that's, you know, the 20 to 25 year olds, if they just dig that little bit deeper, they could be incredible, especially with this day and age of social media, of the freedom and the ability to go anywhere in the world at low costs. It's the best time for all that
so
stuff.
Cheap, isn't it?
It's unbelievable. You could be across the world for a couple of $100 in this day and age. It's insane, you know, and you just need that little bit of courage.
Yeah.
And you know, it's 100% I agree with that.
But what are your thoughts on Marbella then? Could you see yourself living here?
In Marbella?
No,
I don't think so. No.
Why would you say that, do you reckon?
I don't know. I think Europe. I love Europe. I love to. I didn't actually go around Europe until France was my first holiday. But I think in 2018, when I was on a ship, I ended up sailing into Monaco and all the way up north into to Norway, and it's beautiful, really beautiful. But I just don't think that I'll ever venture out and settle anywhere in Europe.
Yeah, Mexico's the one.
Mexico's the one, you know.
Yeah,
I think that I'm always keen to, especially, you know, buying a project and doing it up. I think that would be something on the radar for sure. Like a little place in the south of Italy or someplace, like a 20,000 euros.
Cool, actually.
Yes, man. Just buy an old, rundown, derelict cottage and just renovate it and just have it in the mountains. And, you know, fly into a small airport, hire a car, drive up and just sip coffee in the mountains.
Yeah,
I think that
go to a few vineyards or something.
Correct. I think that there is now, that could be something for the future, you know?
That's one thing. I would like to do Italy more. I've never done Venice.
Venice is beautiful.
Yeah.
Venice is
There's not that much to do though.
No.
To be fair,
I think once you see it once, and you've done it, you know.
Because we literally, when me and Claudia started talking, we were like, because going out for a date night in the UK is expensive.
It is.
By the time you book a hotel, you go out for a meal, whatever else you're paying for. So you're like, should we just look at cheap flights to Europe? So it was like, I don't know, 60 quid each return flights from Manchester Airport. And then however much the Airbnb was, and we were like, fuck it, let's go for one night, and just went. Yeah. And it was cool. Yeah, it was really interesting to see.
That's the experience that life is all about. You know, you could go to the local wherever down in Manchester. You paid double what you would for all of that. But some people just say it's easier and more convenient to do that. But I think that's the hard wiring of Britain as a nation, is that it's, you know what, we'll just do this because it's easier, you know. But I think there was one guy who said, you know what, instead of buying a Domino's pizza, I'm going to see if I can fly to Italy, have a pizza and fly back.
I've seen that, actually. Yeah.
And he actually did it. I think it cost him it was like 19 euros or something like that to go to.
It's crazy, isn't it? Yeah.
That's how easy it is. You know, and I love stuff like that. You know, it's
YouTube videos and that kind of shit is so good. Yeah.
That's impulsive, and you know that. At least a great story, no matter how it transpires, you know. And somebody says, what did you do yesterday? You can either say, I ordered Domino's, sat on the couch and did nothing, or I booked my flight at 6 o'clock in the morning, went to Italy, had a pizza and flew back at night. They go, what? And then you met somebody on the way, and, you know, the more
story happened. Yeah,
exactly. And I think the more you do things like that in your life, the smaller this world gets. And you end up crossing paths with people that you never ever thought you would. And it makes for good stories.
Yeah.
You know?
So I remember me and my friend, we went traveling around Europe for like 4 months. It was like in COVID, but you know, when restrictions were kind of like lifted. So we went to, where did we go? Went to Croatia, like Split, and then went to Budapest. We went to Poland, Krakow, and Prague. And then we were in Split, I think it was. And you meet whoever, and met this couple. They were like doing online foreign teaching or something. And then a month or two after, we were in Budapest, and we're just walking the street and just walk past the same people. And you just think, what are the fucking chances?
What are the chances? Yes.
That's what I mean. You realise how small the world is the more you get out there. Because you say you go into Miami, isn't it? And you got friends and connections everywhere in the world. And you think, I'll just go there, go to Barbados in Henry, go to Miami, see mates over there. And you just think, it's not actually that big of a place, is it really?
No. When I went to Peru, so I got off the plane in Cusco when I was going to Machu Picchu. And as I was waiting on my bag, I'm standing there and I hear my voice getting shouted by somebody. It's like, who's this? And I realized it's one of my friends that I've not seen for a year and a half, who actually lived in Miami and caught up in the middle of the smallest airport in probably the whole of South America. And then we end up doing Machu Picchu together the next day. And just like, you're like, what is the... And he was doing a 10-day retreat for ayahuasca in Sacred Valley, yes. And it's like how connected the world is without us even realizing. It's just so many occurrences like that have happened. And I don't even question it anymore. Everything happens the way that it's supposed to happen.
100%. Good or bad, isn't it?
Correct. And I just laugh anytime the situation comes up, or... you know, you cross paths with people. I just, of course it's going to happen, you know. It's quite funny the way the world works.
Yeah, inevitable, definitely.
Yes.
And then in your life, what would you say, any mistakes or any big lessons you've learned that you'd say that spring to mind that you'd want to share?
I don't think so. I don't have any regrets. I don't think I have any regrets. And I thought that it might sound a little bit cliche because people say you should never regret anything, but I wouldn't be sitting here in Marbella with you having this podcast if I had any regrets about anything.
Yeah.
And I think everything is perfectly harmonise the way it is? Do I look at things and think things could have worked out better in certain situations and circumstances? 100%. I think everybody could. But if I dwell on that, then what's next? And I think that then impedes the choices and decisions you make going forward. If I make 5, 6 incorrect choices along the way, that's okay, as long as I don't hurt anybody or harm anybody in the process. I mean, there's nothing to lose with that. And so regrets, I don't think I have any regrets at all.
My regret at the moment is not extending my last Airbnb in Marbella. That is my big regret.
Yeah, you told me, yes. After seeing the views, I don't blame you. Yeah, that is a huge regret.
Yeah. Well, what about any big lessons that you've learned in your life that you'd want to share with people who are watching and listening?
Big lessons in my life?
Yeah. Any knowledge that you'd like to share? Anything you think you've learned along the way that you think would be valuable to pass on to maybe somebody who's maybe just starting out in their career, or somebody who's maybe halfway through? Anything you feel like you could navigate people in the right direction or stop them maybe from, I don't know.
I think that maybe there's too many naysayers, people that have not given the full 100% of commitment towards anything that they're actually aspiring to be and become. So it's very easy for people to then be the one to, this part is awesome.
Yeah,
after this we have to go across and say, and I think that what happens is they drown with the noise, the background noise of the influence of those that are never ever going to put themselves in a position to go ahead and do it. So it's very important to, one thing that I found powerful is meditating, sitting in silence and trying to figure out the answer. One thing that you listen to thoughts and opinions of people throughout the years, and sometimes that can impede the actual choice and decision that you need to make. So I think that, you can ask for thoughts and opinions from people, but don't take it for face value. Understand different thought processes and different angles, but be the one to make the final choice and decision based on what goes on in the gut. If you've got a gut feeling, 99% of the time that's one you need to go for. If the gut is saying don't do that, don't do it. And just, you can always then say it was your conscious choice and decision of which direction you went, and nobody can ever say anything about that. The only thing that you can control in your life is you and the narrative that plays in your mind. That is the most powerful thing, because that's what's going to create the expansion for you. I think that is the most important thing.
That's definitely a good point, because you can, it depends what relationship you've got with people, but yeah, everyone's entitled to their opinion. Everyone's got an opinion as well.
Of course.
But nobody can relate to you or really understand what situation you're in. Maybe they think they can, but they never truly can. I think I'm definitely culprit of not taking as much advice on board. I'll just kind of like make my own decision and not listen to any external noise, which I think is a good thing, but can be a bad thing as well.
Yes.
But, so I mean, you only really know what's best for you, don't you?
Yes.
Compared to everybody else.
Yeah. And you've got to ask yourself the question, if somebody gives you advice, is it coming from a place of experience or the place of what the narrative has already told them not to do, and they're going based on their gut?
Yeah.
If we all went based on the gut of somebody who says, no, don't do it, then we'd be 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Back in Carlisle and Dundee. So I think that it's always good to just question the narrative and say, what if?
Yeah. Because like if, say, you've got somebody who's higher than you and you want to get there, then yeah, listen to their advice. But then if they're divorced 2 times and whatever, and then you're asking them for relationship advice, maybe you don't listen to that. Yes. That kind of thing. Yeah. I don't know. So like, pick your battles maybe.
Yes.
Kind of thing. Which I think's good advice, isn't it really? So,
definitely, yes. Yeah.
Anyway, right, let's round things up, because it's been actually quite an interesting one, because it's gone from light to dark as well.
It has. Yeah. Great.
Maybe we can still see each other. Right, let me get a selfie before I forget, because I always forget. Nice.
Awesome.
Right, so let's wrap it up. Where can people find you, follow you, all the fun stuff?
All the fun stuff. I've got Instagram, Gary Calder. I think that's just I think that's my handle.
Yeah.
Facebook, Gary Calder. LinkedIn, Gary Calder. Yeah.
Are you big on LinkedIn or not?
I tried to be, especially during the pandemic, but it got me nowhere.
No.
I think it's, It
is just like a showing off contest, and I'm culprit of that as well.
Yes, I think it is. I think it's, you blow up a status that makes you sound like you're
perfect, amazing.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it's far from the truth and reality, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you start getting into the cycle of becoming that person, which I didn't like. So I use it as a connective tool, but I don't use it now to, if somebody messages me and it's meaningful, then 100% I'm going to respond. If it's generic marketing or it's just a very fluffy,
That's a great way to describe it.
it's a fluffy tool, you know,
Yeah.
and I don't really like it. Instagram I love because I normally, things that I post have a meaning for me, and it's usually a life lesson or something of accomplishment, something that will hopefully try to motivate and influence to push people in the direction that they are hesitant about. Back to that, you know, the narrative of should I, what if, you know, hopefully I've been able to push people in the right direction for the better, and they see the reward of that, and then they can share it with other people. So I think Instagram is my biggest platform at the moment, you know.
That's a good perspective to have, yeah. Because my social media, I'm always at a crossroads, because I just use mine for business.
Yeah.
And like some of the stuff I post on there, I'm like, I probably wouldn't post that, but I know it could have like a benefit further down the line. So it's like, strategic posting. To be honest,
that's a good way of putting it. Strategic posting, I like that. Yeah.
I don't think I don't think I'd ever post if it wasn't my job.
Yeah.
It's just effort.
What type of things do you post?
Just like work stuff about like videos and client testimonials and motivational captions.
It's influential, which is the whole purpose of, I think the whole purpose of social media, right?
Yeah.
You're the only reason you post is to influence people for the better. Yeah. Some people do it for, you know, the other effect, but with what you're doing and how you carry yourself, and, you know, the expansion of going from UK to Marbella and your business, and, you know, I think that there is really captivating for a lot of people. It's very, very, it is motivational and inspirational. So I think that don't stop, keep going.
I need to post more, to be fair.
You need to post more, yeah.
I'm a hypocrite. I do it for a job and don't post myself. But anyway, right, everybody, thank you very much for listening. Yes. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe, like the video, comment your favourite part. Any questions for Gary, leave them in the comment section below. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple, make sure to follow our podcast and like 5-star review. See you next time. Bye.